Cold blue light filled the alien hospital. The air smelled of metal and strange chemicals. Machines hummed softly around a small bed in the center of the room. On that bed lay a tiny alien girl. Her skin was pale like faded moonlight. Her chest rose and fell slowly as if each breath was a struggle. Thin tubes ran from her arms and chest to glowing machines that blinked with dull red lights. Around her stood 3 alien doctors. Their tall, thin bodies were wrapped in silver robes that reflected the harsh lights. Their faces showed no emotion, only cold logic. They whispered to each other in their sharp, clicking language. Their words cut through the silence like knives. One of them shook his head and turned to the child's mother. The mother stood near the wall, trembling. Her clothes were wrinkled and stained with worry. Her dark eyes were wide and full of tears that refused to fall. Her hands gripped each other so tightly her knuckles were white. She had not slept for many nights. She stared at her daughter, afraid to blink in case the child stopped breathing when she looked away. The oldest doctor stepped forward. He raised his thin fingers in a slow gesture of finality. He spoke in the common trade language so the mother could understand. His voice was calm and empty. He said her daughter's organs were shutting down. He said her cells had stopped responding to treatment. He said there was no chance for survival. He said they would end the life support within the next hour. The mother's legs gave way. She fell to her knees and pressed her forehead to the cold floor. A weak sound escaped her throat, half sob and half plea. She begged them to try something else, anything. She said her daughter was strong. She said her child could hear her voice even now. But the doctors turned away. Their robes shimmered like dull steel as they walked toward the exit. Their minds were already moving to the next patient. To them, this girl was already gone. The mother dragged herself to her feet. She stumbled to the bedside and took her daughter's tiny cold hand in both of hers. It felt fragile like thin glass. She whispered to her, telling her to stay, telling her to keep fighting. The machines around the bed hissed and beeped without emotion. The air grew heavy as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Just as the doctors reached the doorway, the sound of heavy boots echoed from the hall. A figure appeared in the light. He was human. His uniform was worn and stained from field work. His short brown hair stuck to his forehead with sweat. He paused at the door and looked at the scene with confusion. He was a volunteer medic from the Human Aid Corps. He had been told to deliver supplies to this ward, not to witness the end of a life. He stepped forward slowly. His boots rang on the metal floor. He asked what was happening. One of the alien doctors turned and answered coldly. He said the child was dying and that nothing could be done. He said human medicine would not understand alien biology. He said there was no point in wasting more resources. The human frowned. He stepped closer to the bed and looked down at the small figure. Her skin was thin and cold, but her chest still moved. He touched the side of her neck gently. A faint pulse tapped under his fingers. It was weak, but it was there. He reached for the scanner on his belt and passed it over her body. The screen flickered with data and strange rhythms. The alien doctors only watched him in silence. He looked at the readings again and then back at the child. His voice was quiet but steady.
He said she was still fighting.
He said she was not gone yet. The mother's head snapped up. Her eyes locked on him with desperate hope. The alien doctors only shook their heads. They said he was wasting time. They said he should leave, but he did not leave. He set his supply case on the floor and knelt beside the bed. He adjusted the oxygen mask on the child's face. He cleared the mucus from her breathing tubes. He checked the fluid drips and changed the ones that had gone cold. He spoke to her gently while he worked. He told her she was brave. He told her she could hold on. His voice was soft but carried through the cold air like a small flame. The mother watched him with shaking hands pressed to her lips. Her heart ached at the sight of this stranger who cared more than the doctors who had treated her daughter for months. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. It was hope, sharp and dangerous. She was afraid of it, but she could not stop it from growing. The human finished his checks and sat back on his heels. He wiped sweat from his brow and stared at the monitor lights. They still blinked red, warning of failure. But the rhythm on the heart line had grown steadier. He turned to the doctors and said he wanted more time. They said no. He said he would stay anyway. The alien doctors left the room. The door hissed shut behind them. The mother sank into the chair beside the bed. The human pulled up a stool and opened his medical case. The air was silent except for the faint hiss of the machines and the tiny beat of a struggling heart. He leaned close to the child and whispered as if telling her a secret. He said she was not alone. He said he would not let her go, and for the first time in many nights, the mother allowed herself to believe that her daughter might live. The human medic did not move from the small stool beside the alien child's bed. The cold hum of the machines pressed around him, but he acted as if they did not exist. His hands stayed busy, adjusting wires, checking pulse patterns, and writing down notes on a thin digital pad. The alien mother sat silently nearby, her eyes fixed on his face. She was afraid to speak, afraid that her voice might break the thin thread of life still holding her daughter to this world. Hours passed. The other alien doctors did not return. They had washed their hands of the case. To them, the child was already gone. The human, however, acted as if she had a full future ahead of her. He whispered quiet encouragement while he worked, telling her she was strong, telling her she could fight. He spoke to her as if she could hear every word. His tone was soft, like a lullaby wrapped in steel. When the mother finally spoke, her voice trembled. She asked him why he was still here. He paused for the first time and looked at her. His brown eyes were tired but steady. He told her that giving up was not in his nature. He told her that back on his homeworld, he had seen children survive when everyone thought they would not. He said sometimes the body only needs someone who refuses to let go. The mother stared at him, unsure if she should believe him. No alien had ever spoken about hope the way this human did. Hope was considered dangerous among her people. It could cloud judgment. It could waste resources. It could break hearts. But as she looked at her daughter's still chest rising just a little stronger than before, she felt that dangerous hope again, glowing like an ember under ash. The human opened his medical case and pulled out a small human-made scanner. It was old and scratched, clearly used in many field missions. He powered it on and a soft blue light washed over the child's body. Strange human letters scrolled across the screen. The mother leaned forward but could not understand the language. The human studied the readings and frowned. He muttered that her cells were not dead, only slow. They were not responding to alien treatments because their rhythm was different. It was like trying to fix a clock using the wrong kind of time. He tapped the screen and opened a new file. He began designing a new treatment pattern. The mother's eyes widened as she realized he was planning to experiment on her daughter. She asked if it was safe. He admitted it was not, but he said doing nothing was worse. He promised he would not hurt her. His voice was calm and certain. Something about his certainty steadied the fear in her chest. He stayed awake all night. The hospital lights dimmed to a soft violet as the alien city outside went to sleep. Shadows stretched long across the metal floor. The human sat like a statue, blinking rarely, writing code lines into his device. He mixed nutrient vials, rewired sensor nodes, and recalibrated the oxygen pumps. The machines beeped softly as if they were curious what he was doing. The mother dozed off in her chair. She dreamed of her daughter running under twin suns, laughing. She woke to the soft sound of the human singing under his breath. The song was low and slow in a language she did not know. It wrapped around the room like warm cloth. She watched him work, his movements careful and patient. It struck her how strange he was. No one had ordered him to do this. No one would praise him for it. Yet he stayed, pouring himself into saving a child who was not even of his species. At dawn, the alien doctors returned. Their robes glimmered under the brightening lights. They froze when they saw the human still there. One of them hissed that he had violated protocol. They said he was risking contamination. They demanded he leave. The human stood and faced them. He did not raise his voice, but each word carried like a strike of iron. He said he would not leave. He said the girl was still alive. He said if they would not help him, then they should at least stay out of his way. The doctors glared but did not touch him. The mother rose and stood at his side. Her thin frame trembled, but her eyes were fierce. She told them if they forced him to leave, she would leave with him. That shocked them more than his defiance. They turned away with sharp movements, muttering in their clicking language. One of them spat that failure would be on his hands. He nodded without fear. When they were gone, the human sat back down and rubbed his tired eyes. The mother offered him a small flask of water. He thanked her and drank slowly. His hands shook, but his gaze stayed focused. He told her this was only the beginning. He told her he would have to push the child's cells to wake up, even if it meant breaking old medical rules. He said if they could get her through the next 3 days, she might have a real chance. The mother asked what he needed. He handed her a list of supplies. Some were common, others were rare and expensive. She nodded without hesitation. She would get them all. For the first time in many nights, her voice did not shake when she spoke. The human leaned close to the child once more. He placed a hand near her heart, feeling for the faint beat. He whispered to her again, his voice steady and warm. He told her he would not let her slip away. He told her she was stronger than they believed. And as the mother watched, she thought she saw the child's fingers twitch against the sheets, as if answering his promise. The alien hospital was silent when the mother returned with the supplies. She carried a small metal crate close to her chest as if it held her own heart. The corridor lights flickered pale blue around her as she walked. She pushed the door open and stepped inside the dim ward. The human was still there, sitting beside her daughter like a shadow that refused to move. He looked up when she entered. His eyes were bloodshot from sleepless hours, but still sharp with focus. He stood and took the crate from her trembling arms. One by one, he laid the items out on the metal table. Nutrient vials from the outer colonies. A human microserum designed to restart damaged cell structures. Flexible human-made energy filaments no thicker than hair. The mother watched in silence as his hands worked with calm precision. He cleaned his tools and sterilized the air around the bed. The child still lay silent under the soft glow of the monitors. Her skin was pale and cold. Her chest rose only slightly. The heart line on the monitor was a weak, trembling wave. The human placed his hand gently on her forehead. His voice was low but firm as he told her to keep holding on. He prepared the microserum. The glowing liquid pulsed softly inside the injector like captured starlight. The mother's breath caught as he loaded it. He explained that this serum could wake cells that were still alive but sleeping. It was dangerous. If her system rejected it, her body could shut down completely. But if it worked, it could bring her back from the edge. The mother's hands clenched together as he touched the injector to the child's arm. He counted softly and pressed the trigger. The serum flowed into her veins. The monitors beeped sharply in protest. Red warning lights blinked across the screens. The mother gasped and stepped forward, but the human raised his hand to stop her. His eyes stayed locked on the heart line. For several long seconds, nothing happened. The heart line trembled and sank lower. The human's jaw tightened. He tapped a command on the console to stabilize her oxygen levels. Then the heart line twitched. It jumped once. Then again. The rhythm steadied, slow but stronger than before. The monitor's tone shifted from a flat drone to a hesitant, steady beat. The mother let out a broken cry of relief. The human exhaled slowly and sagged back on the stool. His shoulders trembled from the tension draining out of him. The mother rushed to the bedside and gripped her daughter's hand. It felt warmer. A faint color spread through her skin like the first hint of dawn. The human reached for a small thermal patch and placed it gently on the girl's chest to support her circulation. The door slid open with a hiss. The alien doctors strode in, their silver robes catching the light. They froze when they saw the monitors glowing green. One of them barked in disbelief. Another pushed forward and scanned the child. The readings showed rising oxygen levels and stabilizing brain activity. Their faces shifted from scorn to shock. They turned to the human with sharp voices, accusing him of reckless behavior. They said he could have killed her. He said nothing. He only pointed at the monitors. The child's heart was beating stronger. The mother stood tall between the doctors and the human. Her voice was quiet but steady. She told them that they had already given up on her daughter. She said this human was the only one who still believed she could live. The doctors stared at her as if they had never seen her before. They backed away without another word and left the room. When they were gone, the human checked the girl again. He scanned her cells and nodded slightly. He told the mother that her body had accepted the serum. The cells were waking up. He warned that this was only the first step. Her organs were still weak. He would need to build something to help her heart until it could beat on its own. The mother nodded. She would do anything. Her eyes were wet but burning with fierce determination. The girl's eyelids fluttered. Both of them froze. Her tiny lips parted as a weak sound escaped, like the faint hum of a distant star engine. Her eyes opened just a crack. They were cloudy but aware. They focused on the human's face. His breath caught. She stared at him for a long, still moment. It was not fear or confusion in her gaze. It was something softer, something searching. The human leaned closer and smiled gently. He told her she was safe. He told her she had done well. The girl's fingers twitched around her mother's thumb. Then her eyes closed again and she drifted back into sleep, her breathing steadier than before. The mother sank to her knees and pressed her forehead to the bed's edge. Silent tears fell onto the sheets. The human sat back and rubbed his tired face. His voice was quiet when he spoke. He said this was the first spark. He said now they had to build it into a flame. He opened his medical case and began sketching designs for a hybrid support device. The mother rose slowly, still trembling, and stood beside him. The air in the room felt lighter than it had in days. The machines hummed softly like they too could feel the change. For the first time since this nightmare began, hope no longer felt dangerous. It felt real. It felt alive. The hospital lights had grown dim again when the human finally looked up from his sketches. The table beside him was crowded with scattered tools and glowing diagrams. Thin lines of code floated across his tablet screen as he mapped out something entirely new. He had decided to build a hybrid bioheart for the child. It was the only way. Her real heart was too weak to last much longer. The serum had given her a spark, but that spark would fade unless something stronger carried it forward. The mother stood quietly near the bed, watching him. Her daughter now breathed more steadily under the soft blanket. A faint blush had returned to her skin. Her small chest rose and fell in a rhythm that almost sounded normal. The mother's hands rested on the bed rails, fingers lightly touching her daughter's arm as if to remind herself she was still real. She did not speak, afraid any sound might break this fragile moment. The human glanced at her and gave a tired smile. He said they had bought time, but time alone would not save her. He opened the crate of human tools she had brought earlier. He sorted through energy filaments, nanogel packs, and microcircuit boards. He began soldering tiny threads of metal under a magnifier lens. His hands moved steadily despite the tremor of exhaustion in his arms. Sparks flickered like fireflies as he fused human tech with alien tissue samples. The smell of ionized air filled the room. The mother stepped closer, curious and wary. She had never seen a heart being built before. The human explained as he worked. He said the device would not replace her real heart completely. It would act like a supportive rhythm engine, giving her heart steady pulses until it could grow stronger again. It would merge with her living tissue and slowly dissolve once her own body took over. His voice was calm but carried the weight of risk. He said it had never been done on her species before. She nodded anyway. Fear had no power left in her. Only hope remained. Outside, the alien city shifted from night to dawn. Through the high window, soft orange light spilled across the floor like liquid metal. The mother fetched nutrient vials from the storage unit and handed them to him. He mixed them into glowing gel that would feed the growing tissue. The girl stirred once in her sleep and both of them froze. Her eyelids fluttered but stayed shut. The mother gently stroked her hair until she settled again. The human exhaled and returned to his work. By midday, the prototype was ready. It was small, no bigger than a clenched fist. A faint heartbeat thumped inside it, generated by microenergy pulses. Thin wires curled out like silver veins. The mother stared at it with wide eyes. It looked alive. The human held it carefully in both hands as if cradling something fragile and sacred. He whispered that it had to work. It was her only chance. He prepared the surgical chamber. He sterilized the air and layered the walls with shielding foam to block outside interference. The machines around the bed beeped softly as if sensing what was about to happen. The mother helped him lift the child gently and lay her on the sterile platform. Her tiny fingers curled reflexively around his glove before slipping away. He placed his hand on her chest and felt the faint flutter of her real heart. It was barely there. He took a slow breath and made the first incision with a laser scalpel. The beam hissed through the air. The mother stood at his shoulder, trembling but silent. She watched every movement, every careful adjustment of wires and tissue. He removed damaged muscle strands with steady hands and replaced them with the hybrid veins from his device. Sweat ran down his face, but he did not pause. Hours passed inside that silent room. The machines tracked every heartbeat and every breath with cold precision. Finally, he placed the small bioheart inside her chest. It pulsed gently, sinking to her rhythm. He closed the incision and sealed it with biogel. The machines beeped in confusion as they read new signals. The heart line on the monitor spiked, dropped, then steadied into a strong, regular beat. The human sagged back, almost collapsing from relief. The mother let out a sharp cry that broke into laughter and tears all at once. The girl's breathing deepened. Color flushed through her cheeks like sunlight rising over cold stone. Her eyelids fluttered open. This time her eyes were clearer. They glimmered with soft light as they focused on the human leaning over her. His hands trembled as he smiled at her. She blinked slowly, then turned her gaze to her mother. A tiny sound escaped her lips, a broken whisper of life. The mother covered her mouth with both hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The human sat back on the floor, too tired to stand. His voice was rough but steady when he spoke. He told the mother that the hardest part was done. The heart was working. Now she needed rest, warmth, and time. The mother knelt beside him, tears streaking her face. She whispered her thanks again and again. He only shook his head and said it was not over yet. They had saved her life, but now they had to protect it. They stayed by her side as the lights dimmed toward evening. The child slept with soft breaths, her chest rising in steady rhythm under the blanket. The new heart hummed quietly inside her, strong and sure. Outside, the first stars glimmered above the alien city. The mother sat on the floor, holding her daughter's small hand. The human leaned against the wall with heavy eyes but a quiet smile. They both knew this was only the beginning. But for the first time, survival felt real. The hospital was quiet when the first warning arrived. A coded message flashed across the wall screen near the door. The human paused in the middle of checking the child's pulse. He read the short alien script carefully, his jaw tightening as he understood the meaning. The message came from the Central Medical Authority. It ordered him to stop his work immediately. They declared his actions illegal and dangerous. They demanded he surrender the child for termination. The mother saw his face darken and rushed to read the screen. Her hands trembled as she traced the glowing letters. Her throat tightened. The message said the child was an unstable medical subject. It said her new hybrid heart was an unauthorized experiment that threatened the colony's safety. It warned that if they did not comply, security forces would arrive to remove them. The human switched off the screen. His voice stayed calm but carried a hard edge. He said they had expected this. He told her that people in power feared what they could not control. He said the girl was living proof that their rules were wrong. The mother stood stiff and silent, her eyes burning with quiet fury. She looked down at her daughter sleeping peacefully. The soft hum of her new heart filled the room like a secret song. The idea of anyone taking her away sent a sharp pain through her chest. The human began packing his tools. He moved quickly and with purpose. The mother asked where they would go. He said he had a plan but did not give details yet. She did not press him. Trust had already rooted deep between them. He placed the small scanner on the girl's chest to check her vitals. Her heart line showed strong, steady beats. Her oxygen levels had doubled since the last reading. She was getting stronger by the hour. That made the threat from the authorities even more urgent. If she survived, they would have to admit they were wrong. They would rather see her gone than face that truth. A low alarm echoed through the building. The mother stiffened. The human ran to the door and checked the hall. Red security lights pulsed along the corridor. A voice boomed through the speakers in the alien tongue. The mother translated quickly. Security units were entering the hospital. They were coming to seize all unauthorized medical cases. The human cursed under his breath and bolted the door. He moved fast. He disconnected the girl from the wall machines and attached portable monitors to her chest and arms. He wrapped her gently in a thermal blanket. The mother grabbed a small breathing mask and held it ready. The child stirred weakly and whimpered. The human soothed her with quiet words while tightening the straps on the portable heart stabilizer. The sound of heavy boots grew louder down the hallway. The mother asked how they would escape. The human glanced at the air vent above the room. He pulled a small plasma cutter from his belt and sliced through the metal grate. He climbed up first, then reached down for the child. The mother passed her up carefully, her heart pounding. The human cradled the girl against his chest and pulled her close. The mother climbed up behind them, her claws scraping the cold metal. They crawled through the narrow shaft as the boots thundered into the ward below. Voices barked orders. Something crashed. The human kept moving fast but silent. The air smelled of dust and rust. The girl shifted in his arms, her breathing soft but steady. The mother whispered a quiet prayer under her breath. The tunnel sloped down and opened into a dark storage bay. They dropped down onto crates stacked with medical supplies. The human found a service pod at the far wall. It was small and battered but still powered. He hot-wired the console while the mother stood guard at the door. Distant alarms wailed through the hospital. A sharp metal clang echoed closer. The human pulled open the pod's hatch and helped the mother climb inside. He passed her the child. then climbed in and sealed the hatch behind them. The pod roared to life and shot down the launch tunnel. The force pushed them back in their seats. The mother clutched her daughter close as the walls blurred around them. The pod burst into the open sky above the alien city. Towers of crystal and steel flashed by as they sped between them. Sirens echoed behind. 2 black security drones rose from the rooftops and locked onto their trail. Red targeting beams swept across the sky. The human dove the pod through a canyon of shining glass towers. The drones fired bright plasma bolts that scorched the air near their tail. He jerked the controls and twisted between buildings. The pod's engine howled in protest. Sparks rained from the ceiling as they scraped a tower wall. The girl stirred in her mother's arms. Her eyes opened for a moment. She whispered a soft sound that might have been his name. The mother's heart cracked and healed at the same time. The human gritted his teeth and plunged the pod into the undercity tunnels. The drones followed, beams slicing through the darkness. He shut off the lights and guided by memory alone. The tunnels were tight and twisting. One drone clipped a support beam and exploded in a flash of white fire. The shockwave slammed into the pod. Alarms screamed. He held the controls steady. The second drone wavered, clipped a wall, and spun out into the dark. Silence filled the tunnel. The pod coasted to a stop in a hidden maintenance bay deep below the city. The human powered it down and sat breathing hard. The mother cradled her daughter close, rocking gently. The girl's new heart hummed steady inside her small chest. The human turned to the mother. His voice was rough but firm. He said they could not stay on this world any longer. He said it was time to leave everything behind if they wanted her to live. The mother met his gaze and nodded. Her eyes no longer held fear, only fire. The hidden maintenance bay was silent except for the faint ticking of the pod's cooling engine. Dim orange light leaked from cracked ceiling lamps and painted long shadows across the walls. The human sat on the cold floor, his back against the pod, breathing slowly to calm his racing heart. The mother knelt nearby, cradling her sleeping daughter close. The soft hum of the child's hybrid heart filled the air like a distant lullaby. For a brief moment they simply listened to it, both of them too drained to speak. Then the human stood. His face was pale with exhaustion, but his eyes were clear. He opened the storage lockers along the wall and pulled out dusty star charts and old fuel cells. He explained that the only way to keep her safe was to leave this planet. The mother stared at him in silence as the meaning sank in. Leaving meant abandoning her world forever. Leaving meant exile. But when she looked at her daughter's small face pressed against her chest, the choice was already made. She nodded once, firm and without hesitation. The human started working on the old med transport ship buried under a tarp in the corner. It was bigger than the pod, built for long-distance emergency runs. Layers of dust coated its white hull. The engines were half dismantled, forgotten years ago. He wiped grime from the control panels and began reconnecting power lines. Sparks crackled as he welded torn wires. The mother helped him without question, holding lights and fetching tools. The child slept on a pile of blankets near them, her breathing steady and calm. Hours passed in the dim glow of the bay. The engines groaned as they powered up for the first time in decades. Dust rained from the ceiling with each shudder. The mother tightened the seals on the oxygen tanks while the human rerouted the ship's life support systems. He checked the girl's vitals between every task, adjusting her portable monitors and whispering quiet encouragement. She stirred once, her eyes fluttering open for a few seconds before slipping back into sleep. He touched her forehead gently and smiled, then returned to his work. By nightfall, the ship was ready. The human and the mother carried the child into the small medical chamber inside. They strapped her gently into a cushioned bed and surrounded her with soft thermal blankets. The hybrid heart pulsed steady beneath her skin. The mother kissed her forehead and brushed her hair back. The human closed the chamber's clear cover and sealed it with a quiet hiss. Then he climbed into the pilot seat and powered the engines. The bay trembled as the engines roared to life. The floor shook under their feet. The human's fingers danced across the controls. The ship lifted off its rusted platform, scattering dust and scraps of old tools. The mother strapped herself into the co-pilot chair, her claws gripping the armrests. The ship's nose rose toward the tunnel mouth ahead. With a sharp thrust, they shot into the darkness. The narrow tunnel screamed past them. Warning sirens blared from distant corners of the undercity. The human kept the lights off to hide their path. The ship shuddered as they scraped past ancient steel support beams. The mother held her breath as sparks rained across the windshield. Finally, they burst out into the open night sky above the alien city. Towers of shining glass stretched beneath them like frozen waves. The stars glittered high above, cold and distant. Then the alarm screamed. The human cursed softly as red lights flashed across the console. A patrol squad of black security ships had locked onto them. 3 sleek fighters rose from the city spires, their engines glowing like hot knives. They fired warning shots that sliced bright lines through the night. The human threw the ship into a steep climb. The engines roared as they sped toward the upper atmosphere. The fighters followed close behind, their cannons spitting blue fire. Plasma bolts streaked past their wings. The ship rocked from the shock waves. The mother cried out and grabbed the dashboard. The human kept his voice steady, telling her to hold on. He dove the ship low between 2 towers, the glowing windows rushing past in blurs of light. The fighters split apart to flank them from both sides. He pulled up sharply, flipping them into a vertical climb. The engines howled as gravity tried to drag them back down. Clouds swallowed the city below. Lightning flashed around them, bright and violent. The mother glanced back at the medical chamber. The girl slept on, peaceful despite the chaos. Her chest rose in steady rhythm. That sight gave the mother strength. She turned back to the window and bared her teeth in silent defiance. The first fighter locked a missile on them. The human saw the red target line flash on the radar. He jerked the ship sideways and rolled it through a tight spiral. The missile shot past and exploded in a burst of white fire. The shockwave slammed into them and sent the ship spinning. The mother screamed as alarms wailed. The human fought the controls with gritted teeth and dragged them out of the spin. He dived straight into a raging plasma storm above the stratosphere. The storm was chaos made of light. Rivers of burning gas twisted through the black sky. Electric arcs danced across their hull. The fighters hesitated at the edge, unwilling to follow. The human pushed the ship deeper into the storm. Energy waves hammered them from all sides. Panels sparked. Lights flickered. The engines shrieked as if tearing apart. The mother held the seat with clawed hands, her eyes wide but steady. The human's face was pale but fierce. He guided the ship through the chaos like he had been born in storms. Then they were through. The black silence of space opened before them. Stars spread out like scattered diamonds. The alarms fell quiet. The engines hummed soft and low. The city, the fighters, the storm, all were gone behind them. Only the endless void stretched ahead. The human let out a long, slow breath. The mother slumped back in her seat, tears slipping down her face. They both turned to the medical chamber. The child still slept under the soft lights. Her breathing was calm. Her heart beat strong. The human whispered that they had made it. The mother touched the glass gently and smiled through her tears. They were free. The human ship drifted quietly through deep space. Stars shimmered beyond the windows like scattered sparks of frozen fire. Days had passed since they escaped the alien world. The engines hummed a soft, constant note while life support systems whispered in the background. Inside the small medical chamber, the child lay sleeping peacefully. The glow of the hybrid heart pulsed gently under her skin, steady and strong. The mother sat nearby, her eyes half closed, her fingers lightly brushing through her daughter's hair. She had not left her side once. The dark rings under her eyes had faded, replaced by a quiet glow of relief. The human entered the chamber carrying a steaming cup of broth. He smiled when he saw the child's soft breathing and the color in her cheeks. He handed the cup to the mother, who accepted it with a small, grateful nod. He checked the monitors while she sipped. Her oxygen levels had risen to normal. Her cell growth was stable. Her heart rhythm was perfect. He let out a long breath and leaned against the wall. For the first time since they met, his shoulders were no longer tense. The fight to keep her alive was over. Now they had to give her something worth living for. The human led the mother to the cockpit. Outside the wide window stretched a small human colony world, a sphere of blue oceans and golden plains hanging in the darkness. He explained that this was a border colony where refugees were welcomed. The people here cared more about helping than following rules. No one would come looking for them. The mother stared at the glowing planet in silence. It was nothing like her home. It was warm and soft and full of color. Slowly she nodded. The ship descended through the atmosphere like a falling star. Flames licked across the hull as they cut through the upper clouds. Wind screamed around them and then fell away. Blue sky opened wide above green fields. Rivers flashed like silver ribbons below. Flocks of bright-winged birds scattered as the ship roared past. The mother pressed her hand to the window and whispered something under her breath. The human smiled at the wonder in her voice. They landed on a grassy field outside a small human village. The ground shook softly as the engines powered down. The air was warm and filled with the scent of wildflowers. The mother carried her daughter out of the ship, wrapped in soft blankets. The girl stirred in the sunlight, blinking as golden light washed her face. She opened her eyes fully for the first time since the hospital. They were bright and clear. She stared at the sky with open awe. The human knelt on the grass and held out his hands. The girl wobbled as the mother set her down carefully. She took one small step, then another. Her legs trembled but held. The wind lifted her hair as she stumbled forward into the human's arms. He caught her gently and laughed with pure joy. The mother covered her mouth with trembling hands as tears spilled down her cheeks. The girl laughed too, a soft, clear sound like ringing glass. She reached up and touched the human's face. Her small fingers traced his tired smile. Then she wrapped her arms around his neck and pressed her head to his chest. He held her tight, his eyes closing as emotion broke through him. The mother joined them, wrapping her arms around them both. For a long moment they stayed like that, 3 lives bound together by something stronger than blood. The days that followed passed in quiet peace. The human repaired an old farmhouse at the edge of the village. He patched the roof while the mother tended the garden. The girl ran barefoot through the tall grass, chasing bright insects under the warm sun. She grew stronger each day, her laughter echoing across the fields. The villagers watched from a distance at first, curious and cautious. But when they saw the way the human and the mother protected the girl, their fear melted into smiles. At night, they sat on the porch together. The mother hummed soft lullabies from her homeworld while the human played a quiet tune on a small stringed instrument. The girl curled between them, her head on the human's lap, her feet tucked under her mother's arm. The stars glimmered above, countless and endless. But for the first time, none of them seemed far away. One evening, the girl looked up at the human with wide, shining eyes. Her voice was small but clear. She called him Papa. The word hung in the warm night air like a bell. The mother's breath caught. The human froze, his hand trembling on the strings. Then his face broke into a soft smile. He lifted her into his arms and hugged her close. The mother reached out and pulled them both into her embrace. Tears shone on all their faces, lit silver by the moonlight. They stayed like that under the stars until the girl fell asleep in their arms. The hybrid heart inside her beat strong and steady, a quiet drum of life and hope. The human carried her inside and laid her gently in her bed. The mother tucked the blankets around her and kissed her forehead. They stood together at the doorway, watching her breathe. The human whispered that she was safe now. The mother nodded, her eyes shining. She said this was the life their daughter deserved. She said they had given her more than survival. They had given her a home. Outside, the night wind whispered through the grass. The stars burned bright and silent, and inside the little farmhouse, 3 hearts beat together, stronger than fear, stronger than fate, stronger than anything the galaxy could place against them.